So, growing up, I always had this idea that living a rich life meant living a life with lots of money, right? Or growing up with a lot of money or being well off because with how we grew up, we didn't have that. We didn't have much really, and so I thought we would have lived a much happier life, a more fulfilling life if we did have money. Because a lot of the times, a lot of our childhood was spent being on the road a lot or just moving a lot. I remember living in lots of different places. Whenever rent raised, we would move from apartment complex to apartment complex, usually like every couple years or so. So even if it's just from this house to another house in the complex, so or from this house to another, across the street. So we'd be moving a lot. So it never really felt like I had a permanent home because of that. And I remember we'd have to also, lived in smaller confined spaces with all of us too. And this one house specifically, it was me, my sister sharing a bunk bed, and then my brother also sharing the room with us. And then my older brother in the living room, sleeping on just a mattress. So, we had to really make the best out of, our living situations. And we moved a lot and we were on the road a lot. And me specifically, I remember because my mom couldn't afford daycare, while my siblings were off to school, I went with her to work every day. I remember, every morning I'm wearing this denim jacket. It's a cold morning, and I can smell the strong scent for perfume, right? And we were just in her van. So I remember this so vividly. Every morning we would do that. Just go off to her nail salon, and I would sit there. I'd watch Thumbelina every day. And then any other show that they just put on and have on, I would watch. I'd play outside. I'd just pretty much keep myself entertained for hours every day while at her work with her. So I just remember being in the car so much. As a kid, I got so nauseous all the time too, so I remember just drinking 7-Up all the time, just because we were driving to move or driving to get paperwork done or just driving. It just felt like we were driving so much, right, on the road and just always on the move. So with that, I remember any clothes we wore, we never bought for ourselves. It was, as I mentioned, that she worked at a nail salon. A lot of her customers would give her old clothes or old hand-me-downs, donations. And I remember it'd be like freaking Christmas every time my mom would come home with just bags of clothes or shoes or toys. And me and my siblings would pick through and see which ones we liked and which ones would fit. And those were some of the best days. So nothing I wore was ever new. It was like hand-me-downs or old clothes like that. Shoes I would wear until they were so worn out and had holes in them. But even so, I still, had to rock the shoes with holes in them because we couldn't afford to buy shoes every year. And then the toys. I didn't have many growing up. And so the ones that her customers gave her, I'll never forget. My favorite one ever was this big elaborate dollhouse. It had like a living room, kitchen, bathroom, all these different rooms, and then so many different pieces to it. Little dolls, and just, I had so much fun with it. I would play with it for hours every day. And then I remember I also received like this baby doll, and then also with it a stroller and like food or a bottle. and I would play with this freaking baby and just carry it around and just push the stroller around just every day for hours, you know, keeping myself entertained. And yeah, me and my siblings had to really just find creative ways to keep each other entertained with what we had. I remember we made up baseball with an umbrella and crinkled up paper, right? So yeah, that was a lot of my childhood, just trying to make the best out of what we had and what we could. And I remember we grew up in a relatively rich neighborhood, I would say, in Aliso Viejo. So a lot of the friends that I made were richer. So, you know, they wore the coolest clothes or had the best toys, or they went on yearly extravagant vacations with their families, and, you know, just did all of these things that made it hard for me as a kid to relate to. And so, because of that, that really did make me feel so, I guess, ashamed or embarrassed, because I couldn't afford, you know, the coolest clothes or to go places like them. But even so, they were good friends that I made, I would say, growing up in school. I remember in elementary school, my friends would give me some of their food at lunch. And my mom did give me lunch money, of course, but I tried not to spend it every day, just try to save, and only bought food when I was hungry. So I mean, my friends would give me food, and then on the days where, I remember this one friend specifically, whenever her mom made these bomb homemade sandwiches, that's when I'd go and buy a cookie. It was only for like 50 cents, I think, for a cookie, and then I would trade her for that homemade sandwich. So that's when I would spend money at lunch. But yeah, whenever I had to ask my mom for money, whether it was for lunch or, you know, because my friends would invite me to their birthday parties and I wanted to buy them birthday gifts, I didn't realize it at the time, but I remember vividly that whenever I asked, she'd always have like this pained look on her face, and it felt like hours of me just like begging, you know, asking her for some money, and yeah, I just didn't understand at the time why it was such a struggle. So yeah, I mean, with how I grew up and just a lot of these feelings of shame and embarrassment, and with the struggles we went through, it was hard not to focus on, it was hard not to think about, you know, what I didn't have growing up or what I was missing out on, rather than focusing on what I did have. So a few years ago for Christmas, for Christmas, what my family usually does is my siblings would fly in, we'd all get together at my parents' house in Anaheim. Me and my oldest brother were already there locally, so we just, you know, meet there. Siblings would fly in, and then every year for Christmas Eve we would do pretty much the same thing. We get together, eat food, we talk, we hang, we put on a movie, which, okay, the only movies in our rotation are Infinity War and Days of Future Past. I really don't remember any other movie we put on except those two, which I'm not complaining. Those are the best two movies ever. So those two movies, or we'd play a game like Smash. Yeah, we would just hang out, right? It was a whole day ordeal kind of thing, just hanging out, and also doing a gift exchange whether it's each of us buying little gifts for everyone or doing a secret Santa. So this specific Christmas was my brother-in-law's first Christmas with us, and so because it was his first Christmas with us, I wanted to buy him something too. So I was doing some last minute Christmas shopping. I remember going back and forth with my sister, like, oh my gosh, should I get him this, or would he use this? I settled on a very fancy shaker cup, I must say. Like, it wasn't just the typical plastic shaker cup. It was like a better, thicker, more durable material, and I would have used it. So I settled on that shaker cup, and I wrapped in everything and, got it all ready. And so that Christmas Eve, we were all exchanging gifts, and I gave him the shaker cup. And when he opened it, he shared that he's never received something like this from his family for Christmas, and that his family doesn't usually celebrate Christmas like this, or getting together and doing things together like that. So it was at that moment that just made me realize that I have a family that loves me. I love my family. Growing up, even though if we didn't have the nicest things, or we didn't go on fancy vacations, or we couldn't afford, all these different things that I thought I needed, even though, we grew up in those circumstances, I grew up with a family that cared for me, and I would do anything for them, and I know they would do anything for me too. I love my siblings. I love them to death. I will always be there to help them, lend them an ear. They've supported me growing up. They've supported me now. I know they'll always support me, and I'll always support them. And we genuinely enjoy each other's company. So, that's all of that. It is priceless. And, that at that moment, what my brother-in-law shared with me, it just made me realize that that's what being rich is.